Well, for me, both of my parents are not white. Both were born in Pakistan. My mom moved to Canada when she was 3, and my dad when he was closer to 16. So I'm also the youngest of 4 siblings. So as I was growing up, I kind of got the standard talking to of, you're not going to be the same as those around you, or you have to do something a little extra to make sure you're not falling behind, or to ensure that you have the best images of yourself possible. Because I remember my mom would tell me at the end of the day, you're going to be looked at differently. And that's not something you can control, it's not your fault, but you have to adapt to the circumstances. So I think for as long as I can remember, it was always being told to make sure I'm looking my best, I'm not saying anything that could be perceived as wrong, and making sure that I'm taking the right actions to ensure I'm not harshly judged, because that is something that's very possible. For example, in Canada, I grew up with my family, cousins around me, so a lot of the time I was surrounded with more cultures. And also Toronto itself, where I grew up, is just a very racially diverse city, so even in schools, it wasn't like a very clear, majorly white school. There were so many different cultures, and it was great growing up there. But I moved after first grade, and I moved to Bentonville, Arkansas, which is about as far from Toronto as you can get. And that was a time where in classes, I was oftentimes the only not white kid in a class. And even my mom, I could see she was often not as comfortable as she was in Toronto, because again, like with her job and even around us, she was a little more careful of what she said or what we were doing. And even walking around Walmart, for example, it was very clear that people would look at you a little differently, or they would take a few more seconds to look at what you were doing. And then moving to Kansas, it's not as white as Arkansas, but it was still pretty close. So I think for me, it's as I was growing up, because that's when I was a kid, like growing up, I was able to see how different places, different people interacted with race and what it meant to be a non-white person. Because I think in Arkansas, again, I was a kid, so I didn't experience as much as, for example, my siblings. But for me, it was just seeing that kids would take a little longer to understand what you were saying, or they would take a little longer to realize the impact of what they were doing. I think living in Edina specifically, and like being the age that I am, it's giving me more of an experience to explore how race impacts life. So I spend a lot of my free time looking into different racial occurrences around us, especially in Edina, because I know there are a lot of preconceived notions about Edina as primarily white. But living here, it's led me to change those beliefs a little bit, because people in Edina are so nice and so open about it, but at the same time, there are some people you'll see who won't be as open. So a particular instance was, I was walking around with my friend at 50th in France, and a woman asked me if I was in the wrong neighborhood, I believe, and I was a block from my house. So again, I know it doesn't reflect the city as a whole, but it's just always a little bit of a reminder that you're never gonna fit in perfectly. I think it's making sure people are aware, because a lot of times they're just not sure what they're doing or how it can impact someone else. So with the HRRC specifically, a lot of what we're doing is based on informing those around us and creating more of an emphasis on racial-based education. So I think my work in the HRRC specifically, I personally am just trying to make sure that people in Edina know what they're saying and they know who they're interacting with, because at the end of the day, given how deep-rooted racism is in this country, there's only so much you can do, and some people are just stuck in their mindsets, but for those that aren't, those are the ones you want to change. So after last summer and after the killing of George Floyd, there definitely was a change in the tone of school and how race was addressed. So I know there are student groups at Edina who are led by people of color whose goal is to change the minds of students, or to ensure that there's equity across schools, because the more you look at it, the more it's clear that there are disparities across the board. However, even with students, it's easy to see that everyone is trying their best to work on themselves regarding race, so they're trying to ensure that they're making everyone feel safe. So I don't think there's anyone who necessarily is going out of their way to be racist, but I see there's definitely a movement against that, and everyone is working their best on educating themselves, and even teachers. So for example, in AP World History, when talking about the slave trade, I can definitely see that teachers are doing their best to ensure that students are understanding the impact that had on America. So I think it's easy to see that even if it didn't just start this year, and even if it's been going on, there is an emphasis on prefacing everything with the fact that for a large part of history, colonizers have done some pretty bad stuff, and not only that, but it's pushing students to think about how their actions impact others. At the end of the day, while I may not do anything significant or large, I think I can help contribute to larger movements, and that's what I'm hoping to do. It's because I know that hopefully in the future, another kid won't have to go through what I did. And even, I think it's what my parents did for me as well, or my mom, because I know that when she grew up, she had different experiences than what I did, and I'm sure they were worse. I've only heard parts of it, but I know she, throughout her life, did her best to ensure that my siblings and I would never grow up like she did. And I want to do the same for those after me, because I want to ensure that racism and systemic issues they decrease in prevalence, because while they're never going to be eliminated, we can only hope to make them less severe and make them have less of an impact on those growing up. Yeah, I think especially for students and other younger people, it's important to understand that your experiences are not insignificant compared to those around you. Because for me, a lot of times I struggled with, I haven't had that many racial experiences, or my life has been pretty normal. And I think personally, I've tried to minimize what's happened to me. And I think that's something a lot of people struggle with, because they don't think their issues are important or big enough. And I think it's important to understand that even if your issues aren't as large, or they don't have as great of a magnitude on the world as a whole, to you they're still important, and you can't minimize what has happened. And it's important to look at yourself and look at what's been done to you and the experiences you've had, and to understand that those are still important and they're not to be downsized simply because they didn't impact more people around you.